Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Spree Sports Central. Today, we're going to be going over my Week 13 college football rankings. So, going over last week's rankings and what those teams did in Week 12. Last week at number 10, I had SMU. They beat Boston College 38-28. 9 was Alabama. They destroyed Mercer 52-7. 8, I had Indiana. They were on a bye. 7th was Penn State. They destroyed Purdue 49-10. 6, I had BYU. They were upset by Kansas, losing 17-13. 5, I had Tennessee. They lost to Georgia 31-17. 4 was Notre Dame. They easily beat Virginia 35-14. 3 was Texas. They escaped Arkansas with a 20-10 win. 2 was Ohio State. They easily beat Northwestern 31-7. And 1 was Oregon, who barely beat Wisconsin 16-13. Getting into this week's rankings, beginning things at number 10, I've got Georgia. So Georgia re-enters my top 10, as they sit at number 10 after they beat Tennessee 31-17. And this was a good win for Georgia, because it's a good bounce-back win after a bad loss to Ole Miss last week, plus they beat a very good Tennessee team. But Georgia, they get off to a slow start, trailing 10-0 at the end of the first quarter, but then the rest of the way, they outscored Tennessee 31-7. Carson Beck had a great game, throwing for 347 yards, and had 3 touchdowns, 2 passing, 1 rushing. And the big thing for Carson Beck is he didn't turn the ball over, after he had a turnover in 6 straight games coming into this game. But his no turnovers, a big reason why Georgia was able to get the win. Georgia tight end Oscar Delp also played a big role with 4 catches for 56 yards and 2 scores. And then defensively, Georgia played well, especially in the second half, not allowing a single second half point. Plus, they were able to get consistent pressure on quarterback Nico Iamaleava, sacking him 5 times. But Georgia, after a good win, they've remained in contention for the college football playoff, and they're at number 10. Coming in at number 9, I have Ole Miss. So Ole Miss is another team that enters the top 10. They're on a bye and only move up because a couple of teams lost. But Ole Miss, they're sitting at 8-2. Next week they play Florida. Coming in at number 8, I have SMU. So SMU moves up to number 8 after they beat Boston College 38-28. But this wasn't the best game for SMU, as this game was always close and they never led by more than 10 points. But SMU's offense played very well. Quarterback Kevin Jennings had a big game with 298 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Running back Rashard Smith had a good game with 120 yards and a touchdown. But defensively, SMU didn't play that well. They allowed 28 points and over 400 total yards, although they did get a big 4th down stop late in the game. But SMU is now 9-1, and I have them at number 8. 7 is Alabama. So Alabama enters at number 7 after their dominant win over Mercer 52-7. Alabama did what was expected against an FCS opponent. Jalen Milroe had 3 total touchdowns. Alabama as a team threw for 319 yards and 3 touchdowns. They rushed for 189 yards and another 3 scores. And defensively they dominated, allowing just 202 yards and forced 3 turnovers. But Alabama, after an easy win over an FCS team, they're at number 7. 6th, I have Indiana. So Indiana moves up a couple of spots to number 6, and that is because a couple of teams ahead of them lost. But Indiana was on a bye. Next week they have a huge matchup against Ohio State. Getting into the top 5, at number 5, I have Penn State. So Penn State enters at number 5 after they demolished Purdue 49-10. The offense played well, as Drew Allar threw for 247 yards and 3 touchdowns. Penn State ran the football very effectively, rushing for 234 yards and 3 touchdowns on 6.9 yards per carry. And tight end Tyler Warren had a great game with 8 catches for 127 yards and a touchdown. But he also had 63 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Then defensively, Penn State dominated, allowing just 10 points. But I have Penn State at number 5, but I don't think they're anywhere close to the 5th best team in the country. But Penn State, they just keep winning because they play an extremely easy schedule, while other good teams lose because they play teams who actually have a pulse. But Penn State, despite them being massively overrated, I do have them at 5 because they're a 1-loss team. Coming in at number 4, I have Notre Dame. So Notre Dame remains at number 4 after they easily beat Virginia by a score of 35-14. Notre Dame, they've really dominated this game. Their offense was good with 35 points and 448 total yards. Quarterback Riley Leonard threw for 3 touchdowns, and running back Jeremiah Love also had a big game with 137 yards and 2 scores. But Notre Dame, they didn't play their greatest offensive game despite putting up 35 points, because they scored 4 of their 5 touchdowns off of Virginia turnovers, and their other touchdown drive ended in a 76-yard touchdown run. So it could have been a better offensive game for Notre Dame, but they were still able to score 35 points. Then defensively, Notre Dame was great. They allowed just 14 points and forced 5 turnovers. But Notre Dame, they're now winners of 8 straight, and I have them at number 4. Third, I have Texas. So Texas remains at number 3 after they defeated Arkansas by a score of 20-10. But Texas, they did not play well at all. They barely beat an Arkansas team that isn't even that good. Their offense scored just 20 points, Quinn Ewers just 176 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Texas could not run the football, averaging just 3.4 yards a carry. But the Texas defense was the reason they won this game. They allowed just 10 points, forced 2 turnovers, and sacked the quarterback 6 times. But despite this not being a good performance for Texas, they were still able to get the win by 10 points, and I have them at number 3. Coming in at number 2, I have Ohio State. So Ohio State remains at number 2 after they easily beat Northwestern by a score of 31-7. Ohio State, they've really dominated this game. Will Howard threw for 247 yards and 2 touchdowns. Both went to Carnell Tate. And Ohio State ran the football effectively, rushing for 173 yards and 2 touchdowns, both of which came from Quishon Judkins. True freshman receiver Jeremiah Smith continued to have a great season, as he had 4 catches for 100 yards. And then defensively, Ohio State dominated, allowing just 7 points and 4.1 yards per play. But Ohio State, after an easy win over Northwestern, they're at number 2. And coming in at number 1, I have Oregon. So Oregon remains at number 1, but they did not play a good game, as they barely beat Wisconsin 16-13, and this was their worst game of the season by far. The offense scored just 16 points. Dylan Gabriel threw for just 218 yards and also threw a pick. But running back Jordan James did play a good game with 121 yards and a touchdown on the ground. And Oregon's defense was also another major factor in the reason they were able to get the win, as they allowed just 13 points and 226 total yards, plus they got a big interception to steal the game. But Oregon, they did not play well, but they were able to still get the win, and they, after a narrow win over Wisconsin, remain at number 1. And my updated college football playoff predictions, so they actually remain the same from last week. My 1 seed remains a 12-1 Ohio State, winning the Big Ten. 2 seed is Texas at 12-1, winning the SEC. My 3 seed is Miami at 12-1, winning the ACC. And my 4 seed BYU 12-1, winning the Big 12. Despite the loss for BYU, I still think they'll be able to make the college football playoff. But don't sleep on Colorado to potentially win the Big 12, because they're sitting at 8-2 and currently control their own destiny in the conference. So there is definitely a chance Colorado can potentially make the playoff, but for now I've got BYU. My 5th seed is Oregon at 12-1, 6th seed Notre Dame at 11-1, 7th seed is Penn State, also at 11-1. My 8th seed is Indiana at 11-1, 9th seed is Boise State at 12-1, winning the Mountain West. My 10th seed is Ole Miss at 10-2, 11th seed is Georgia, also at 10-2, and my 12th seed is SMU at 11-2. That's all for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, turn on notifications. I do my best to post as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.